So I am very, very pleased to be joined by Neeti Mohan once again. The last time we spoke was bang in lockdown. It was an Instagram live, and now we're having a proper one-to-one interview. So thank you so much, Neeti, for joining me, and congratulations on the great year you're having so far.
Thank you, Anuj. Pleasure to be talking to you again.
Yes, absolutely. Well, look, I think first of all, the congratulations are also in order because I know you're back on Saregama Little Champs as a judge. You've been on panels before, but this time, after being a mom, you're sort of being a judge. I'm sure, the life that you're having, your journey of motherhood, I'm sure that must have a really huge impact on the way you perceive and observe the singers and the contestants on the show, right?
Absolutely. I think I always used to like kids a lot. I would love interacting with them. And I always, when I see a child, I see huge potential. Okay, not necessarily in music, but in anything. They can just um, do anything, learn any skill, and they can rule the world, you know.
Yeah.
And see huge potential. And now, after becoming a mother, I feel that even more because a child is full of possibilities.
Hmm.
And it's like, this moldable clay, and you can just give them any shape that you want to give them. So it's amazing. I love that.
Right. Now, I think when it does come to a judge, because obviously at one point you also were a reality show contestant. Okay, you weren't a child at that at that stage when you were obviously a contestant. But how much are you able to identify with that journey? You know, that whole jazba of wanting to achieve something and wanting to really make the most of your life. How much are you able to sort of grasp that?
There are so many emotions that a contestant is going through, be it a child or an as an adult. When you stand in a queue, when you even think of uh, appearing in any reality show and try your luck. I remember clearly when I was in college and my sisters were asking me to appear for, the Popstars, the band hunt that Channel B was doing. And I'm like, no, I don't think I'll make it. They said, no, we have full faith in you, you'll make it. So
Hmm.
even not only just the child or one person, it's the entire family who has faith in you, and they stand. So my sister stood in the line for me and they said, we are waiting for you, you have to come here. And I was not leaving the house, and they said, no, you have to come.
Hmm.
And when I went for the audition, and I think that's when my life changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that is very sacred, and something that is so personal. It's sometimes is full of excitement. You are nervous. You have so many expectations from you. Sometimes you don't have anybody, your family is expecting a lot. So there's so much that a contestant is going through, and I feel like I totally understand and get it, what they are going through and where they're coming from.
Sure, sure. Now, I think 2022 is a very momentous year for you. I mean, firstly, I've been listening to all your songs. Like Meri Jaan is one of my favorite songs this year. Even Had Kar De and Fitoor from Shamshira. I mean, what a year it's been for you so far, and I'm so happy. Like every time I hear your name attached to a song, मुझे मालूम पड़ जाता है कि ये क्वालिटी होने वाला है, एक अच्छा गाना होने वाला है. So that's the sort of stature that you've achieved. But actually, 10 years ago, you had actually begun your Bollywood sort of playback singing career, I think with Ishq Wala Love and then Jiya Re, I think the same year. When you look back at these 10 years, what sort of thoughts cross your mind? How would you say you've progressed? What do you think has been the really major factors which have helped you evolve as a singer and as an artist?
I think it's the musicians, it's my colleagues and musicians around whom I've interacted, and I think the more I've interacted with them, the more I've sung for them, I have learned, and I think I've also grown hungrier than the last time, to work more and to sing better. I think that's my goal, so that I can sing better songs uh, and reach to people, and you know, soothe them when they need a good song.
And I think the most amazing thing about you, Neeti, is that versatility that you have as a singer. I mean, I'm no music. I mean, I don't know. I'm not very knowledgeable in music, so I do apologize for that. But I think one thing that I've gained as a listener, to your music is that if you can do a jazz like the Bombay Velvet album, like so many songs of yours. I was so impressed by the way you sang those songs. Very, very different tones and those harkates that you take. There's so much you can do. Where do you think that versatility within you as an artist has come from?
I think it comes from being open to music, and I'm open to any kind of music. So maybe because of that, and also since childhood, I was exposed to folk music, sometimes semi classical music, and then I joined a band. Then I started listening to English music. And for Bombay Velvet, especially, I had to prepare. So I had enough time to listen to a lot of jazz music. So I learned how to modulate my voice in a way so that um, I just kind of do justice to the song, and it should sound like it is a 50s and 60s jazz song.
Yeah, and I think that's what I really love is that you have that very Hindustani appeal, but yet you can sing a jazz song, you can sing a Western song, and it comes across very natural. One thing I must also talk about is the whole classical music background that you've come from. I feel like what's happening now is that because there's been so many remixes and recreations, which don't get me wrong, some of them are very enjoyable to listen to. I somehow feel that the audience and the listeners, in a way, are kind of missing that classical music that, the 90s, 50s, या 60s की जो era की music जो थी, जो दिल से आती थी, that sort of classical जो vibe आती थी. I feel like people are missing that nowadays. How important is it to bring back that essence of Hindustani music?
See, when I was a kid, I used to listen to a lot of semi classical music and devotional music, and that used to play in my house. So that's when my ears just picked up this kind of music. So, and I think if a child is listening to Hindustani music, they will, it's like an ocean. You listen to such amazing ragas and the scales that you don't hear in a film song.
Right.
But when supposed to, that's like intense, those ragas. And when you listen to those ragas, also have sub ragas, and you listen to a lot more, and then your ears become they're attuned to listen to these small nuances, which I feel that's what I think sometimes we miss. That's what you're talking about, right? That sometimes we
Yes.
in singing or in listening to these songs, where the same place where there could be a small harkat is just taken straight, sometimes. So I think it's also I mean, it's personal, it's subjective. Sometimes the composer is like, yes, I want little classical touch, like Mithun wanted more classical touch to singing, in Fitoor. When I was singing it, he's like, no, I really want it to be devotional, and I want it to be very devotional love song where
Mhm.
you surrendering to your loved one. So that is why towards the end when I sing तू जो भी कहे बन जाऊं मैं, so that is why those things come, because that's because the music director is asking you to feel that way. But if the same song, if the music director said, no, this girl is very modern, she does not understand these nuances, and it has to come from a different creative space, then this may not be there. So it totally depends on the music director, how they want the rendition to be. So I follow them, and that's why it all depends on the songs, that where the song is leading their story towards in the film. So if it is not making sense, that nuance is not needed.
Right, right. That's a very good point because actually my next question was actually regarding that because a lot of the time when I do interviews with actors, I often say to them, "What is the reference point besides the main text that they're given?" So I guess for you as a singer, what is that key inspiration for you whenever you're singing a song, regardless of which circumstance it is? What is that one thing or few things that you reflect back on?
Uh, totally trust the music director, and I just totally trust them and take pointers from them. And whatever they say, I do that, and until they reach a point in the song where they say, okay, now we've got what we wanted, or I've got what I wanted for the song. Now I want you to add little bit to the song. That's when I kind of start thinking that what else an extra I can do in the song. Otherwise, I totally surrender to the music director. And I feel like because it's their child and you are just kind of owning that melody and making yours.
Right. That is so beautiful. Now, when we talk about some of the songs, I think for me, I have to talk about Meri Jaan because that song is such a mind-blowing song. And I think what it reminded me of, it took me back to the black and white era, of the 60s and the 50s, where Geeta Dutt ma'am, I remember Geeta Dutt ma'am instantly when I heard Meri Jaan. What was the process behind actually Meri Jaan, if you could sing? Because the yodeling that you do is marvelous actually. So if you could talk us through that, that would be amazing.
Well, Meri Jaan was very interesting song. When I first heard it, I was called by Bhansali sir to his office, and I remember seeing Alia also sitting there in the sitting, and it was like a musical sitting. There was lyricist, and and all of us were just sitting and jamming to the song, and sir was teaching me the melody, and then he said, let's try something, maybe Anala. Then he said, no, let's try you. And I'm like, so who's gonna yodel? He said, you. I said, me? I've never yodel in my life. I've heard it and I find it, I can't even think of doing it. He said, no, no, try it. And I kept thinking that he's just making me do like a trial run and he will make some male guy do it because generally we have always heard yodeling in a male voice. I kept thinking even by the time the song was about to release and I met him and we heard the final song and I said, "Sir, is the yodeling going in my voice?" He said, "Yes, of course, it sounds amazing." And I'm like, okay, I couldn't believe it. So that was the first time I yodeled ever, and I did not know if it was sounding good or bad. I could not judge it, but to Sanjay Leela Bhansali sir, it sounded fab, so we kept it. Also, the process of recording the song was so interesting because then in between there was a lockdown, and I was pregnant when I was recording Meri Jaan.
Wow.
Oh, there was so much, and it was very exciting for me because I thought it's such an incredible feeling to have a child in your tummy and you're recording a song. So this was one of the songs I recorded when I was pregnant.
That is wow. I mean, amazing. It's brilliant. I think look, when it comes to Meri Jaan, I love again the harkates that you make, like that high and all of that. That again, there's nuances because if we see the video of the song, it goes through an array of emotions. There's like this whole mischievous tone to it. There is that very angry tone to it, but a very melancholic tone to it as well. So, how aware were you of the situation in the film when actually singing the song, or were you just reliant on what Bansali sir told you exactly at the time?
So I was just waiting for him to give me whatever cues he wanted me to follow. But he said, make it very vocally very rich. Of course, he likes the vocals to be very, very good. And every time he wanted Meri Jaan in a different expression. So that's what Meri Jaan, Meri Jaan, Meri Jaan. So all those things, I think he said, let's just make the song interesting. And also the antras are very different. The second antra is very it's very like the tune is really like low and I think it gets more seductive over there.
Hmm.
And so I think it is all him. I really owe it to Vansali sir for making me sing like that because he knows his singers and his songs so well. He makes you sing in a way that it works for the song. So I'm totally grateful to him for
And then
making me sing.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think when it comes to musicality and movies, I mean, he's definitely a maverick, that's for sure. But I think you also had Had Kar De, which is equally a very beautiful song. I would say it's quite different to the other songs that we had mentioned. It's a more fun song. It's a joyful song, which again is composed by Shankar Ehsaan Loy. So when it comes to, I guess, Had Kar De and celebration songs, because you have that vivaciousness in your voice, as we've heard it before again, when it comes to Had Kar De, what was some of the sort of tips and sort of pointers you gained from that, or the brief that you got from that?
The brief was that the heroine, is very young and she's getting launched in the film. And then they said it's Manushi. And said we want a very fresh voice for her.
Hmm.
And we want the voice to kind of match the face and everything. So I think that was my brief, that just sound really young and fresh, and yet have Indianness in your voice. I just tried to bring that, but Shankarji is so fab when he records you. So he knows, so everything was kind of kept in mind while recording that song. So it worked out really well for Manushi, and it suited her face.
Right, right. No, that's wonderful. But look, I think Neeti, one thing that I must acknowledge actually that 2022 has been, whilst of course it's been a momentous year for you as to be celebrating 10 years of your Bollywood playback career, it's also been equally very dark as we've lost a lot of fellow cherished music artists this year. And obviously Lata ji being one of them, then of course KK recently. I mean, it's just been disastrous for the music industry. But I think I wanted to talk a bit about Lata ji because I watched a show actually on Star Plus which was paying homage to her life, and I heard your performance, and it was so refreshing to hear the renditions that you had of her songs. What legacy has she left on you? And what is it that future musicians or future singers can actually look up to when it comes to Lataji's legacy?
Lata ji is a goddess herself, and legacy she's left for all of us behind is something that we'll cherish all our lives. She's the first female voice I ever heard, singing, and that left an impression on me. There's such a strong impression that wow, that there is a voice like hers, and singing skill like that. So that was so impressive, and I just tried to emulate her when every time I was singing in any school competition or college competition, and I learned so much. I think unknowingly she's been a teacher of mine. She's been a guru of mine, because if she was not there, I would have not learned those nuances, those Hindustani nuances that she's always, kind of used in her singing. And also the kind of command that you hear in her voice is incredible. So I feel like there's so much to learn from a person like Lata ji. There's so much to learn, and I really uh, will be hugely indebted all my life for all the good work that she has done, because it has inspired millions of girls and millions of boys in the country to sing like her.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that she's not with us anymore, it's heartbreaking. I mean, I
Yes.
don't believe this, but we have to accept it. And all we can do is, that's why I was part of the tribute, because I just want her soul to know that she's left a huge impact on me. And that's why this was my humble tribute to be part of the Lataji's Shraddhanjali. And I wanted to sing a couple of songs by just letting her know that I will always be your fan, and I'll always, have so much regard and love for you.
Right. What would you say is your favorite? I mean, I'm not gonna say song because I think to find one song, your favorite Lataji song is the toughest thing. I mean, I think even a pura dissertation भी अब कम ही होता है, उनकी legacy को मतलब दोहराने में. But what would you say are your few favorite songs of Lataji actually?
Few albums I would recall, I would say Leke, Guide,
Yeah.
Guide, and like these two albums have been my favorites. Like, And there's so many other songs uh, which I've loved listening to, but I've heard these albums on repeat. Lekin and Guide.
Yara Silly Silly. Oh, what a
Yeah.
song. It's so good.
Kesar Alma and Sunio Jiya Re, all these songs are like class, and I think they're a master class for any singer to attempt those songs. And that's what I used to do in my school and college, attempt these songs in those competitions. And you get better, you keep getting better by singing and attempting these songs because they are really hard.
Right. No, it's so beautiful, and I'm really heartened to hear that. And I think yes, I think that's one thing that we can all look up to is that legacy that she's left, and be inspired by it, and use that as a way to help us forward as well. But I think what I've noticed, I think in movies generally, um, Indian cinema is now being recognized as Indian cinema now. Before there was that whole division of North and South, but I think what's happening now is that it's become one, and I think that's really wonderful. Do you feel like the music industry is also becoming that one entity now, or do you think it's always been one entity in the from before? Do you think?
I think earlier people thought that sensibilities were different. I mean, yes, where you live, you dress like you dress local and you eat local. This is what is said, okay? But of course, your influences are the people around you. So earlier, it used to be that gap that South has a different get up and the sensibility, and North has a different sensibility. But I think in last few years, we have seen that suddenly North has really, really started liking the South cinema, and I feel like they've always been doing their thing. The South cinema was always like that, but I feel like sometimes a film like Bahubali changed how people perceived films. So now it's how I think it's all about good content. It's not about North or South.
Hmm.
It's not about, yeah, our cinema, our we have such good stories to tell. We have a lot of history uh, backing us, and when we bring those stories on cinema, they are you know they're legend of films that we can bring to our audiences. So I feel like yes, people are recognizing, and they are really looking up to Indian cinema because there's so much of versatility in our movies. There are modern films, there are historic period films. That kind of music is also there, then the costumes and the drama. So there's a lot that our cinema offers to the world.
Right. Now, I think also one thing that I've realized is that, whether it's not just Indian cinema, but I think any industry, wherever there's something successful happens, other people try to formulate that and try to follow that bandwagon. And basically, it becomes a bit of a repeat factor. And I think that's one thing which we've kind of been seeing, I think, with the whole remix culture that's there in Hindi or Indian music. Um, but I mean, where do you stand on the whole remixes debate? Do you think that it's there just because it's working and people are giving it the traction, or do you think it's a phase that's slowly dying out now and a new sort of phase is happening now in the Indian music industry?
Well, there are three. The way I look at it is there are three different point of views. Firstly, I feel like original music is original music, so of course I love doing that the most,
Mhm.
and when the original content is being made. Secondly, this when the songs are getting remixed, then earlier I used to feel that, oh my god, they will be compared from the original song. But I feel like when it is the same old song, which probably the millennials have not heard, but when it is presented to them, the same melody, the same lyrics, with today's groove and programming and music production, then they also like it because a good song is a good song. So it carries forward, its legacy. So I also understand that aspect of music where original song is an original song, and also a remix when it is done well, musicality is not lost. Like I've recently done a song Sajaunga Lut Kar Bhi with
Hmm.
Shan.
Huh.
लिया है तुमने का like a new version. वह चुरा लिया है, that line does not come, but it's सजाऊंगा लुट कर भी तेरे बदन की डाली को, that song. But I
Uh,
feel like listen to it. There is the musicality in a, within that song is different from the original song, but it is musically very heavy, singing wise, and also lyrically it's different, but at the same time it has that slight reminder of that old original song. So I also feel like then a newer generation gets to listen to an old song which they may not have heard. So I
true.
feel like that also works, because so many gems otherwise will be lost. Like like supposing for me, I have to introduce my son to good music. I would want him to listen to old songs, but at the same time, I want him to listen, but he may not want to hear that sound. He might feel like it's too old for me. So maybe I'll present it to him in a newer fashion or a newer way.
Mm-hmm.
So remixes. But I think for me, my intention is always to keep the musicality high, and especially the vocals be really, really good, so that people listen to it and they say that okay, not bad.
Yeah, no, I think whenever you sing, people do not say not bad. They go, "Wow, we want to hear it again." I mean, the amount of times I've rewinded your songs just to hear you sing just goes to show, like, again, how much an artist like you in nowadays is very cherished. And I think, when it comes to singing or music or any sort of form of the performing arts, I feel like it's very important to find one's voice, right? To find one's identity, to really bring out one's identity. So, Neeti, over these 10 years, what does identity actually mean to you? Not just as a music artist, but personally also. And how do you think, again, I mean, it's a bit of an extension of a question I asked you before, but how do you think that really forms the way you are as a singer?
It's very difficult to answer, but I think I am somebody who is learning every day by being in company of such amazing artists I get to work with. And I just want to continue singing good songs and continue entertaining people. So for me, my identity is that I am someone who is just here to just sing my heart out. And
Mhm.
I that's my identity, I would say. Otherwise, it's very difficult for me to describe what I'm here to do and stuff. But I am someone who is really hungry to do good music. That's it.
Right. And if you were sat in a time machine and we transported you back to 2012, I mean, I would like to come with you, by the way, if we could do that. But what would be the message you'd say to the younger Neeti?
Oh, younger Neeti. I would say, I would say, I keep at it. You will continue what you're doing. Yeah.
Right. Lovely. And another question actually I wanted to ask Neeti was the fact that you have Shakti and Mukti. Obviously, they're also in this industry, and they're both phenomenal performers, also. And I find it very fascinating because when we look at the Mangeshkar family, we have obviously Lata ji, Asha ji, Usha ji, Vidyanath ji as well. A family of creatives. What is the conversation that you all have? Not about life, but just as creators, what sort of discussions do you guys have actually about the performing arts? Do you guys actually even talk about that actually? I would love to know.
Do talk about that a lot. Uh, we definitely talk about women, in the industry, and how sometimes it can be very difficult for women to kind of even express and a desire at home to be an artist sometimes, because sometimes the picture is painted so wrong that a lot of women are not allowed in the family, and they are just kind of demotivated to follow their dreams. So we definitely do talk about that, and we are like, we are so lucky that our parents supported our dreams, but there are so many girls out there who need a little motivation and a hand.
Hmm.
So we all the time just want to do something where we can motivate more and more girls and more artists to come forward and express themselves and be fearless.
Yeah, absolutely. More power to you all for that. But why do you think that still exists, Neeti? Because I would like to think that we as a society have developed so much, but then there's still that, portion of society which still is a bit regressive. Why do you think that that still exists?
Well, let me tell you, when I started in 2003, from there to now, things have changed a lot, and for the better for women. But when I was starting, I was very scared to even say that I want to be an artist. I thought I'll be ridiculed. That how can you even dream of becoming an artist? You have, like I thought that let this be a secret dream and die within myself. I always used to think like that, but I mean, we all have to come together and change this. And I feel like everybody has to believe in equality.
Right,
Everybody has to believe uh, that there is goodness. Let's have faith that girls will be all right and they will be protected. No harm will be done. Let everybody feel safe for them. Then I think they'll be allowed to go out and they will not be stopped from dreaming.
right. And what is the true power of music artists, I think, when it does come to social change? Because I often talk about how movies can really be a catalyst towards implementing social change. But what about that when it comes to music? How impactful is music, do you think, when it comes to evoking a change within our society?
Very important. Music plays a huge role. When you're sad, you can uplift yourself by listening to a good song. So imagine when we sing national anthem together, how we all get goosebumps,
Oh,
right? We all have tears in our eyes, and when we listen to Chak De or India or any international or any Indian sports person or any Indian representing India in games or in a musical festival, we all feel so proud. We are all cheering for our person. So music does play important role, and that is why I'll come back to the issue that we sisters generally feel very close and very strongly for is the women empowerment. And we did a song also last year, no, this year.
hmm,
It's called and we did that song, and I only kind of co-wrote the lyrics and composed it, and three of our sisters, we performed that song in the video. It's called Nari. So this was our humble offering on International Women's Day to tell every girl, to just stand up for themselves and follow their dreams.
it's wonderful. No, absolutely. And I think people watching this, I'm sure amongst our viewers, there must be so many potential music artists out there who still look up at you now, and you've become their idol. So when you do have people coming up to you and say, Neeti ma'am, I want to become like you, or I want to also succeed like you do you also feel that sense of responsibility as well?
um More than pressure, I feel like when you are an artist, you're blessed with extra uh, energy, creative energy, and you that creative energy is so strong and powerful that if you use it wisely, you can make people come together and create magic. So I feel like if you have the power to sing, you should sing songs that can create more value in the society, and your art should create more value basically in the society, and that's what you leave behind.
Right.
You will not be there, but your voice will be floating into the universe. So if that song can inspire someone or um can caress someone's feelings and emotions when they're feeling low, I would feel really really honored.
Right. No, absolutely. But look, on a parting note, Neeti, because I know we're running a little bit out of time, I have a bit of a request actually. Now, I'm a huge fan of Neno Walene, and I'm a huge fan of Fitoor, and I'm a huge fan of Meri Jaan. I don't know if you can pull this off because I'm sure you will. Could you do like a little mishmash of all three? If you can, please. It would make, I think, not just mine, but anyone watching this very happy. Please, if you could.
नैनों वाले ने छेड़ा मन का प्याला, छलकाई मधुशाला, मेरा चैन रैन नैन अपने साथ ले गया, तेरा ये इश्क मेरा फितूर, तू जो भी कहे बन जाऊं मैं। छाया है यूं तेरा सुरूर, जिस जोग कहे रम जाऊं मैं। तेरे नशे में हूं मैं चूर, जिस रंग कहे रंग जाऊं मैं। तेरा ये इश्क मेरा फितूर, तू जो भी कहे बन जाऊं मैं। मेरी जान, मेरी जान, मेरी जान, मेरी जान, मेरी जान, मेरी जान। आई है जो रात नशीली, इसके हर एक बात नशीली, तू भी आकर ले नशा। दोनों की मुलाकात नशीली, नशे की ये बरसात नशीली, तू भी आकर ले नशा। मेरी जान, मेरी जान, मेरी जान, मेरी जान, मेरी जान, मेरी जान।
Bravo. That was incredible, Neeti. Honestly, I really enjoyed. That was so amazing. Thank you so much for that. Honestly, you have such a marvelous voice, and the way you've really created your own identity in this industry, it's truly impeccable. And like I said, there's going to be so many people that already look up to you, and you yourself are leaving your own legacy, Neeti. And I'm just so proud and happy that we've managed to have this discussion once again. It's always such a pleasure to chat with you. So thank you for joining me on Filme Shilmy.
Thank you so much, Anush. Such a pleasure
Thank you
talking to
so
you.
much. I hope you come to London very soon as well.
Yes, very soon. See you.
Definitely, absolutely. Thank you, Neeti.
Bye.
Bye bye.